Quarter action. Ron Paulus looking for someone to throw to. Charles Stafford with the tough catch. Irish with a 10-0 lead. Second half. Ray Zellers takes the handoff. What an effort. Bulls over Reggie Johnson. Does a little hurdle action. And he goes 62 yards for the touchdown. The Irish beat up on Purdue, who had problems turning over the wet football. The final score was 39-21. Kinder 143 yards rushing. Zellers ended the day with 156. I guess they didn't miss Lee Becton. After break, we'll head south.
The crossbar, and it went in. Gamecocks lead in the Commonwealth by 1. Ron?
That's what a lot of coaches say. You got to be paying the preacher if something like that happens.
This UCLA defense. He comes to the near side, clears out the zone, and Kearney Adams turns it upfield. And he just outraces the UCLA secondary. The pickup is 43 yards. He goes out of bounds at the 2-yard line.
And at the 2-yard line, Kevin Hicks, one play later, takes the ball and finishes off that drive with a 3-yard powering run over the left side to give Washington State a 6-0 lead. Washington State was unable to convert a 2-point conversion.
In the second quarter, UCLA missed a field goal, and then Terrell Henderson. As you see this one sail wide to the left. That kept it 6-0. And then watch what happened. Darren Shager got a good snap. Washington State, a huge rush, and there's Henderson. He's all over the Shager punt. The ball goes out of bounds at the 1-yard line, right there. Washington State took it over.
With this man, once again, number 23, Kevin Hicks, finishes off this run, high-stepping into the end zone past Teddy Lawrence to give Washington a 12-0 lead.
And they capped it off with a 2-point conversion right here, Rod. Chad Davis, the keeper, they ran the option. And that made it 14-0 Washington State. And that is where we stand. You look.
And he looks to his left, and it's not there, and he's gonna try to force it, and it doesn't happen. The tip ball there by Milner. Hayes comes over, picks it off, and then he just outruns everybody. You see him from this angle, outruns everyone except for the official, who you're going to see show up here later in the play. What a heck. Well, the Cougars set up the screen very nicely. You see the lineman out in front of 34, Madu, blocking down the field. And there you see Madu use his quickness, and he cuts right behind.
Goal. Pitch to Smith.
They have to come up with the big play here now.
3 receivers left. Gophers blitzing, pass complete. Mitch running, scores a touchdown.
Back, and he's got a guy who's back with him as well. The touchdown pass is 24 yards. Lavelle Pinkney was okay after that slip. Longhorns lead by 14.
Runs well in the grass, but doesn't.
1, UCLA nothing.
Jeff Watson to Ben Bronson, part of a 6-play, 80-yard drive. Bears by 7. A&M did today. Opening kickoff against Southern Miss. Leland McElroy, 3 times last year. Kickoff returns for touchdown. Opens the game with a 100-yarder, his 4th in his career. The career record in Division 1A is Anthony Davis of Southern Cal, 6 in his career. A&M wins 22 straight at Kyle Field. On the field and score, Rob Johnson leads the Trojans down. Sean Walters pays it off with an 8-yard score. First quarter, 1 touchdown per team. Rob Johnson toss. By the way, Rob Johnson, 6 of 6, 133 yards in the first quarter to Ken Grace in the back of the end zone. Southern Cal leading Baylor by 4.
TCU in Texas in the first quarter. Shea Moran drops back, puts it up. Lavelle Pinkney, he's back. Welcome back. Stand up, big guy. 7-0 Longhorns. Third quarter, it's 24-10. The offensive line does their job. Morenz does his. 16-yarder to a wide-open Eric Johnson. It is 34-18. The Longhorns lead. 8:29 to play. They have Colorado coming up next week in Austin. Baylor and USC at the Coliseum tonight. 10-7 Trojans on the march in the red zone. Rob Johnson rolls. buys time. Ken Grace gliding along in the end zone makes the nice diving grab, a 14-yard strike. That made it 14-10 Trojans. That's where we stand midway through the second quarter. Kansas State ranked number 23, hammering Minnesota. It's just gone final. 13. Holiday, 27 carries, 134 yards. Air Force is clobbering UTEP in San Antonio. It's now a final 47-7 for the Falcons. Utah, one of the 18 unbeaten teams so far. 10-11 remaining in the third quarter, a 20-0 lead over Wyoming. In the Rose Bowl, Washington for Western Carolina using Bender, not Harvey, at quarterback. Ohio State moves scoreless for long. The opening kickoff to Leland McElroy at the goal line. This is how you demoralize a road underdog. You take the opening kickoff back 100 yards. One of the reasons why A&M now has the longest home winning streak in the country at 22, now that Miami is beaten. 41-17, McElroy's fourth career touchdown on a kickoff return. Alcorn State, Air McNair against Sam Houston State, a rough afternoon. A late hit out of bounds right there. He goes down. It's a mild separation of his throwing shoulder. He was taken to the hospital, but he says he will try to play next week's game against Mississippi Valley State. They'll lose it.
Straight back, has some time. Now he scrambles away from one hit. Looks, uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there.
Oh, he got it!
Did he get it?
He got it!
Touchdown! Touchdown!
3 wideouts at the top of the picture. Stewart with time. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught! Touchdown! Caught by Westbrook for a touchdown!
Florida State tried to stay unbeaten, hosting North Carolina tonight. Danny Cannell trying to keep his hand in the Heisman hunt. He runs the top-rated offense in the country. FSU averaging more than 600 yards a game. The Tar Heels have never beaten the Seminoles. Check his reservation. Watch this. Kes McCorvey trying to catch it. Terry Billups nails him as North Carolina hangs tough with Florida State in the first quarter. Andre Cooper nailed from Kerry Mock. And then Enzo Armella, who suffered ligament damage to his left knee, was okay enough to do that chop thing. Danny Cannell to Melvin Pearsall from 8 yards out. Florida State takes a 7-0 lead, then tied at 7. Watch this catch. Cannell airing it out for Andre Cooper, who leaps in the end zone, comes down with the ball, even though it is pulled away. It is ruled a touchdown. Cannell with 2 touchdown passes in the first half. This play ruled a fumble, not an incomplete pass. FSU ball, Mack Brown losing it and losing the game. North Carolina still winless against Florida State, and the Noles have won 20 straight ACC games. Cannell 233 yards, 3 touchdowns total in the game, 18 out of 32, 421 total yards for Florida State. And again, they play at Miami.
What made it so unreal was that LSU was doing the throwing and Auburn's defense did the catching and scoring. 3 TDs and INT returns. Terry Bowden, who still hasn't lost a college game, said he had never seen anything like it. Thursday night, we all got a chance to see the Tigers hosting Kentucky. Bill Curry's never beaten the Tigers. First quarter, second and goal, and they're in. Pat Nix finished a 9-play, all-rushing drive. Tigers up 7-zip. Second quarter, 4th and 5. That's a fake punt. Fred Smith, everything's working. First down. Time for who? Stephen Davis. A 15-play drive. Auburn, 237 yards on the ground. It's 14-zip. What about some Auburn D? Look out! Antonio O'Farrell gets nailed by Mike Felton. O'Farrell sat out a play, came right back. He rolls right. O'Farrell, is he looking to get hit, complete a pass, or throw an interception? If you said C, you were right. That's Ken Alvis, 37 yards, the 4th INT for a TD by Auburn this season. Third quarter, 21-zip. Jason Miska, make the hit, loose ball, fall on it. Hey, Joe, Frazier, touchdown, made it 28-zip. We're still in the third. That's a lateral. Ball behind the line. You can fall on it in the end zone. It's a touchdown. Mike Pelton does. Auburn wins their 16th in a row, 41-14, and Bowden unbeaten. His players said this was an opportunity to make an impression. Bowden says, well, we won 41-14, played a lot of people. Whether it was impressive or not, I don't know. Curry blames himself for Kentucky's 1-4 record. He says, obviously, I have not done a good job. Taking a look at the numbers, the best offense, a good defense.
Cougars offense on display as they overmatch the Aggies. John Walsh, Handy Himuli over the middle. 52 yards for the touchdown. Meanwhile, Jamal Willis had a couple of short touchdown runs, setting a new career school record, a total of 34 rushing touchdowns. Walsh, 17 of 27, 306 yards, a couple of touchdowns, did not throw an interception. Walsh, reports coming out of Carolina, he's on the short list of possible top picks if he decides to come out. Coming up on game day, a feisty
that may not be played as definitely conference games and maybe non-conference games. Take Baylor TCU. This is their 102nd meeting, third longest NCAA rivalry, maybe the last game in Fort Worth they're playing today. And if it is, the Bears are leaving a sour taste in the mouth of the Horned Frog fans. A blocked punt by Nakia Cody is picked up by Tyrone Smith. It was already 7-0. That made it 14-0. Since then, they've added another score, a Bradford Lewis 2-yard touchdown run. And the Baylor Bears lead the Horned Frogs by 18 as they play the second quarter. Western Michigan is 4-0. They may not lose again this year. Well, they may not win today. Right now, Kent is leading Western Michigan at Bronco Stadium. Bit of a surprise as they approach halftime. The Duke Blue Devils taking the lead over Navy 6-0 as Fred Goldsmith looks to get the Dukies to 5-0. In the ACC, Maryland and Clemson scoreless in the first. Allen Williams, so the Terps, gets the handoff from the quarterback Kevin Foley. He fumbles the good hit, and Clemson recovers in Terp territory to set up this. First and goal from the 9-yard line. They go to Raymond Priester. Stopped once, keeps going, gets into the end zone, a 9-yard score. Since then, a Nelson Welch field goal has been added, and Clemson leads 10-0 as the Terps are looking to win 3 straight for the first time in 8 years. Virginia going out of the ACC and having no problem leading William and Mary by 20. Simeon Willis, a big touchdown pass to Davis in that one. If you didn't catch it last night, BYU, Lavelle Edwards looking for win 2-0-1 against Utah State. Up 3-0, it's John Walsh to Itula Mili. Breaks the tackle, and he's going to go for the score. 29 yards. Good night for Walsh. 17 of 27, 306 yards. That score, and this one to Himahai Muli over the middle. And up the middle of the vacant Utah State secondary. BYU would cruise, winning this game 34-6. Jamal Willis had a couple of touchdown runs. He now has a school record 34.
Tommy Frazier, as you know, the week with a blood clot in his right calf. Junior Brooke Behringer got the nod against the Wyoming Cowboys, who had never beaten the Huskers in 4 previous meetings. Tommy Frazier, you see, out of uniform, checking out the action. Cowboys with an upset in mind. Jeremy Dombick to Marcus Hayes, and he is off to the races. 40 yards for a quick 6. Cowboys up 7-0. Frazier's replacement, Brooke Behringer, was off to a slow start. Lee Vaughn picks him off, one of 2 Nebraska first quarter turnovers. And that led to this. A 2-yard touchdown run by Terry Hendricks. Cowboys have the Huskers in a haze with a 21-7 lead. But Behringer and Nebraska come back. The junior quarterback rips off a 24-yard scramble for the score. This game was all tied at 21 in the third. Then after a Cowboy turnover, Lawrence Phillips gets around the corner. They try to trip him up, but he's down the sidelines, 40 yards for the touchdown. Nebraska with their first lead of the game, 28-21. But Wyoming wouldn't go away. Fourth quarter, down by 1. Jeremy Glister to John Gustins, touchdown toss, 2-point conversion. It's 35-32. But then the Cowboys make a critical error. Brent Tillman fumbles. Damon Benning covers it. Great field position for Nebraska. And on the next play, Phillips takes it in for his 3rd touchdown of the game. And the Huskers finally pull away and win this one by a final score of 42-32. Nebraska hasn't lost to an unranked opponent at home since 1978, and that was a loss to Missouri. All right, at Franklin Field in Philadelphia, number 4 Penn State taking on the Temple Owls. Temple making the right calls early. Henry Burns with a middle screen to Warren Getty. He cuts the outside, and he races 58 yards. Nice play, second quarter. Penn State tries to open it up. Their quarterback, Harry Collins. The play action. Bobby Ingram with a catch. 63 yards on that play. Penn State leading 7-6. Collins on the drop back. Hits Freddie Scott over the middle. 26 yards to the 15-yard line. Then he lines up 14-6. But right before the half, Penn State trying to build their lead. Collins looks for Scott on the identical play. He's got it. Penn State leads this one by a score of 27-15 now. That one could have become the first school in 32 years to beat Notre Dame 3 straight times in South Bend. Michigan State pulled it off in '62, the same year Purdue won their 5th straight at Notre Dame, but this is 1994, and the Stanford defense did give up 41 points to Northwestern. Ron Paulus looking to lead the Irish to another victory first quarter. He drops back, rolls out, hits a wide open Charles Stafford, 25 yards for the touchdown. Irish up 7-3. Second quarter, they give it to their latest version of Jerome Bettis. Ray Zellers, look at him break those tackles. Also shows some speed. They finally catch up to him after a 59-yard gain down to the 6-yard line. They had a field goal to make it 10-3. Second half, Notre Dame driving again. This time, Derek Mays on the receiving end. Notre Dame up 17-3. And then late in the third quarter, Paulus airs it out to Mike Miller. And Miller doesn't even break stride. Great catch, great touchdown, 47 yards. Irish rolling. They have a 24-3. That's right, take off your hat, let everybody know who you are. It is now 34-15 was the final as Paulus throws 3 touchdown passes. Last week, the Washington UCLA last week, Brandon Stewart came off the bench to try to solve the Cougar defense. He couldn't handle the snap. Washington State recovers. That led to a field goal. Cougars hitting all over the field. Peyton Manning tries to scramble. He gets hog-tied by Chris Hayes. Ouch. Then on the screen, Aaron Hayden tries to fight for extra yards, but Hayes knocks him into yesterday. 2 field goals by Tony Trevant. This one a 48-yarder. And Washington State led it 6-0 at the half. And right now they still lead it, but Tennessee is on the board. It is 9-7 now in a tight one in the fourth quarter. Texas A&M over Texas Tech. The final there was 23-17 down in the Southwest Conference. And last week, when Washington ended that long home win streak of the Orange Bowl, with Florida State coming in next week, the Canes hit the road to Rutgers looking to regain confidence in a Big East matchup. Rutgers fans, though, a little too fired up for the game. Look out, there goes the fence. Kind of dangerous. Remember that happened at Wisconsin last year. But the Scarlet Knights had trouble all day with the Canes. Second quarter, Frank Costa hits Chris T. Jones over the middle, and Jones does the rest. But look at this nice block he picks up from number 7. He goes in for the touchdown, 82 yards. It was 7-3 Miami. Still in the second quarter, James Stewart takes a handoff from Costa, rambles in from 14 yards out. Miami with a 14-3 lead. Fourth quarter action, more Canes. Costa spots Jonathan Harris, and Harris dragging a whole host of Scarlet Knights into the end zone, and Miami wins it by a score of 24-3. Frank Costa, a couple of touchdown passes. He has 8 on the season. Virginia Tech, number 14 in the country, taking on Syracuse. And you see what they think of Tech up there at Syracuse. First quarter, Kirby Dardar bowls over Virginia Tech's defense from 6 yards out, 7-3 Syracuse. Second quarter, it would be Dardar again, this time a 3-yard run, 14-3 Orangemen. They're pushing for the upset. Tech players get some tongue lashing. It doesn't help. Brian Edmonds wide open for the touchdown. Hands of stone. End of the half. Hokies would get a break. Maurice DeShazo will launch it to Kevin Martin. Catches the tip pass as time runs out, but a defensive penalty allows Tech to kick a field goal. And in the fourth quarter, they are now leading this one by a score of 20-14. Now to the Big Ten, number 15 Wisconsin against Michigan State. Homecoming always brings out the best in the Spartan faithful. First quarter, no score. Dwayne Goldberg did his best, gets into the end zone, 7-0 Spartans late in the first. Badger quarterback Darrell Bevel catches his own pass. Coach not happy about that. Second quarter, Bevel pays the price again, left the game with a separated shoulder. Late in the second quarter, his teammate Brent Moss whacks it in from 4 yards out. Spartans 13-10 at the half. Third quarter, Badgers trailing 16-10. Terrell Fletcher kills the drive with a crucial fumble. George Perlis says, that's right, bring it our way. Fourth quarter, Mark Renaud brings it. We're talking untouched, 40 yards for the touchdown. Alvarez in shock. Michigan State rolls to a 29-10 upset. Michigan State, their 5th straight home win versus Wisconsin. Another Big Ten game, Ohio State just getting by Northwestern. The final there was 17-15, a bit of a surprise. Joey Galloway, a touchdown for the Buckeyes. Purdue, they come back from the loss to Notre Dame, knock off Illinois, 22-16 was the final there. Oklahoma over Iowa State, 34-6. The Sooners 31-1-1 in the last 33 meetings against the Cyclones. John Robinson, more highlights. NC State. Terry Harvey tries the option. Nat Perryman makes the pick. And that's set up. Donnie Davis, the option quarterback, finds a hole. He'll get in. 7-0 Yellow Jackets. Third quarter, Tommy Luganville intercepted by Ricky Bell. And he will turn it deep into Georgia Tech territory. Then on second and goal, Carlos King pounds it in for the score. NC State led it 21-10 in the third quarter. And right now they have a 21-13 lead over the Yellow Jackets. North Carolina and Southern Methodist, it's a final. North Carolina wins it over the Ponies. The final there was 28-24. North Carolina, long scoring drives of 88, 15, 23, and 66 yards. John Robinson takes his USC Trojans. State today in the fourth quarter, no problem, as they lead this one by a score of 49-0. In the Big Ten, Indiana all over Minnesota. The final there, 25-14. Maryland taking on Clemson in the ACC. Coach Tommy West trying to fire up his 1-2 Tigers, and they would get an early break. Allen Williams will fumble the ball. The Tigers pounce on it. Maryland coach Mark Duffner not too happy. His offense is okay usually, but his defense has been terrible. Maryland first and goal at the Maryland 9. Raymond Priester takes the handoff, powers his way into the end zone. Clemson up 7-0. Fourth quarter, Clemson trying to preserve the shutout. Kevin Foley's pass broken up in the end zone, and Clemson does preserve the shutout. They win it in Death Valley by a score of 13-0. Their second straight shutout over the Terps. They won last year 29-0. Virginia over William and Mary, 37-3 the final there. Robert Baldwin, 25 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Navy taking on Duke, and they fall 47-14. Duke 5-0 this year, 3-8 after last year, which was a terrible season. They're off to a good start. Army taking on Wake Forest. They are trailing by a field goal, 16-13 to the Demon Deacons. West Virginia, 34-10 over Missouri. Pitt and Louisville. Pittsburgh in the third quarter, leading by a field goal. Vanderbilt taking on Arkansas in the SEC. Arkansas all over Vandy, 35-0 in the third quarter. East Carolina taking on Southern Miss. They are winning this one, 24-10 in the fourth quarter. Texas Christian falls to Baylor in the Southwest Conference, 42-18. Harvard over Holy Cross, 27-17. Princeton over Bucknell, 12-7. Yale over UConn, 28-17. Columbia beats Lafayette, 28-13. And Dartmouth wins it 31-14. The final there, Riley 2 touchdown passes to Rushing, and Brown over Colgate by a score of 26-7. Cornell 21-17 over Lehigh. After another timeout, we're going to update what's happening in the top 25. But first, other scores from the first Saturday in October.
Chris Doering hauls it in 24 yards. What happened, Lee?
Chris, the reason this play works, keep your eye on Terry Dean as he changes the play on the line of scrimmage when he sees a 9-man front. He'll throw the post route to Chris Doering because Doering, as you'll see up the left-hand corner in this play, is 6'4". He goes against a 5'10" cornerback. Excellent scouting by the University of Florida. Great execution.
But Dean would have his troubles in this ball game. Ole Miss, an excellent secondary. He tosses this one right to the cornerback, Fred Thomas. And the Rebels have a lot of practice blocking after interceptions. They make a lot of them. He gets some good downfield blocks, will not go down, and the nice dive into the end zone. 83-yard interception return, 14-0. But Dean would bounce back. Here's Jack Jackson, breaks open. Beautiful throw. They pull away late. They win it 38-14. The Gators have still not allowed a point in the second half all season. Terry Dean, 19 of 32, 292 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have the 3 interceptions. Zier had 3 last week against Ole Miss. And Jack Jackson on the receiving end of 6 passes.
Jack Jackson's averaged over 15 yards per catch before today. Today, 20. He now has 7 touchdowns for the year.
South Bend, Bill Walsh and Stan trying to stop the Volunteers. Second play for Stewart. He fumbles the snap. Washington State recovers. The run not working for Tennessee until this play right here. Nilo Sylvan, the reverse from Peyton Manning, 62 yards. The first touchdown allowed by the Washington State defense. 7-6 Tennessee.
Keep playing the game. 4th and inches. Tennessee goes for it. This is early in the fourth quarter. Peyton Manning gets it. Later in the drive, they kick the field goal. That makes it 10-9.
Washington State had a final chance. Could it be alley-oop 2 from their own 32-yard line? They heave it. They try a different kind of a pass. They try to throw it short and then make the long run in. It doesn't work. Well short. And Washington State absorbs its first loss, still only giving up 1 touchdown all season long. Peyton Manning, 7 of 14, 83 yards passing in the ballgame. Ohio State and Northwestern and the Wildcats played them tough. 10-9 Buckeye lead. Eddie George was a workhorse. One of his 39 carries, he gained 206 yards. Buckeyes led by 8. But back come the Wildcats. Tim Hughes, Dave Beasley, it's a touchdown. It's 17-15 in the final minute. They go for the two-point conversion and the tie. They call the draw, and it's stuffed. Dennis Lundy can't get to the goal line, and Ohio State, a hard-fought victory. Northwestern 1-2-1, but they are much improved, much better physically this year. The 19th straight time, however, they have fallen to Ohio State. Purdue upsets Illinois in Champaign 22-16. The Boilermakers are 3-1. You got a bowl-caliber team. Texas A&M struggled, but they win a 23rd consecutive home game. They trail much of this game. 23-17 is the final. All right, Lee, Florida versus Nebraska. As losses last week, Michigan, one of them. Their Big Ten opener against Iowa. The Wolverines, historically very sharp in Big Ten openers. They won the last 8, each of them, by 17 points or more. And Coach Moeller's team, leading 13-7 in the second half, gives it Tim Biakabatuka, knocking the hat off, and he still gets in the end zone. Tom Knight's hat comes off in the tackle right there. Fourth quarter, Iowa down 22-7, a 4th and 6 play. Ryan Driscoll blitzed by Michigan. Finds the touchdown pass right there. It's 22-14. Moeller, another nail biter. Not when you have Tyrone Wheatley straight through the Hawkeye defense. He looked to be running a little bit better this week than last. 29-14 is the final. Make it 13 consecutive Big Ten openers for Michigan. Wheatley, 142 yards and a couple of touchdowns rushing for Michigan. UCLA and Washington, the Dogs, ready to go after the whammy in Miami last week. Napoleon Kaufman in the third quarter, 4 yards for the touchdown, his 27th career rushing touchdown. 17-3 Huskies, and the Bruins, after a couple of tough losses, hanging in there. Third quarter, Kaufman again, though, just breaks their back. Look at him gain the corner on all those guys. 79-yard run, little stop-and-go move, right? There, holds up and then puts in gear. That's worth 10 yards right there. Takes it down to the 1. The ref showing just how close Nappy got. No problem for the Huskies. How did they lose to USC in the opening week? 3-1 for Washington. 227 yards for Kaufman, a career high as he vaults himself right back into the Heisman picture. Miami and Rutgers, 3rd and 17 for games already coming in, but down 14-12 in the third quarter. Ken Oxendine, they call him the Diesel, breaks a few tackles down the sideline, 62 yards. They get the two-pointer. Tech up 20-14. But the Cuse coming back in the fourth quarter. Kirby Dardar on the option. Turns the corner, the Floridian showing the speed. His 3rd touchdown of the day. Syracuse would add another late touchdown, and the Cuse goes to 4-1. Virginia Tech also 4-1. Dardar, 3 touchdown runs. Georgia Tech at NC State, a 21-13 Wolfpack lead with time running out. Tommy Luganville fires it up in the corner. Cedric Zachary, touchdown? No. Ref rules he was out of bounds. Another look. Replay shows his foot touchdown inbounds. And a 2-point conversion, had they been successful, would have tied the game. NC State intercepted on the very next play. They hold on for a 21-13 victory. The Wolfpack lead the ACC in total defense. The Yellow Jackets had not allowed a touchdown pass all season. SMU gave it a good go, but North Carolina came back for a 28-24 victory. The Tar Heels have won 16 straight non-conference regular season games. Curtis Johnson had 82 yards. Oklahoma used the wishbone some, and they sent Iowa State down to 0-5 on the season. James Allen, 111 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. It's a final in Austin. Colorado escapes with a narrow victory for the 2nd consecutive week to go to 4-0. 34-31 the final. They go to Missouri.
Southern Cal fans, not only is their team trailing, but Rob Johnson injures his ankle when being sacked by Paul Jensen. Came out of the game. He's walking on the sidelines. We'll update his condition at halftime. The edge of night continues. Cal, you're getting some running from Dino Filyaw against the Trojans. 49 yards. Good block by the receiver. There's been a lot of that today. 10-0 for the Ducks in the second quarter. The lead is 10-7. Tony Graziani starting for Danny O'Neal. The touchdown pass to Kristen McLemore. 19 yards. The Ducks have just added a field goal, and they've knocked Rob Johnson out of the game, injuring his ankle on this sack. The blitz by Paul Jensen. Right now, Oregon leads Southern Cal by the score of 19-7 late in the third. The last time Oregon won at Southern Cal, 1971. Ahmad Rashad was Bobby Moore back then, and he was an Oregon Duck. Colorado State playing New Mexico, and right now the Lobos down 2 touchdowns as Colorado State tries to go 5-0 for the first time since 1977. We welcome you to halftime. Boulder this year, the way the Buffs have been going, they've been taking each game right down to the final seconds. Of course, last week, today, against future Big 12 buddy, the Longhorns of Texas. It was a hot one in Austin, 108 on the field. Buffs up 4. Shea Morenz to Lavelle Pinckney, 9-yard score, 10-7 Texas. The story of this game, Rashaan Salam on the ground on the Cordell Stewart option pitch. Has a lane and has 6, 59 yards. Down to the 6-yard line. He had 176 yards in the first half. 21-10 Colorado at the half. In the third quarter, John Makovic, the coach of the Longhorns, getting beat on the scoreboard, getting beat up on the sideline by his own team. Not a way to celebrate your 51st birthday. Coach Mack was okay, and his team would come back. Morenz to Pinckney again, and the big receiver, tough to bring down in the red zone. They go for 2, make it. It's 21 all. Now the Buffs lead 24-21, and Herschel Troutman, his 3rd rushing touchdown of the game. It's a freshman, 31-21 Colorado. They have no Mike Adams to Texas, but they'll come back. Morenz to the other receiver, Eric Jackson, over the middle and through the Buffs secondary, 67 yards, a shootout, 31-28, then a field goal ties it at 31. Colorado key drive, mostly Salam on the ground, and this swing pass, Rashaan picks up a big first down and more. They work it into the middle of the field and hold their breath at the end for Neil Voskerikian. It's the game-winning field goal. The Colorado Buffaloes win on the last play from scrimmage for the 2nd straight week, winning by 3. Look at the numbers for Salam as the Buffs win and move on to the Big 8 at a perfect 4-0. Nebraska in the Big 8 without Tommy Frazier, watching, sitting this one out. 7 hard-fought yards into the end zone. They go for 2 and get it. Purdue goes ahead 22-16 against Lou Tepper's team. 10 seconds in the game. Illinois has the ball. Johnny Johnson, the quarterback. Short pass to Ken Dilger at the 8. Turns the corner. Gets to the 1. And John Jackson stops him as time runs down. Purdue 1 win last year. 3-1 now. The twin engines of Allstott and Rogers on the ground help beat Illinois by 6. When you look at the Colorado... Months ago, Tannehill back in the game after the rain is stopped to Toby Cates. Right before halftime, a key score for South Carolina's Gamecocks, who go for 2 and miss, and at 3-1 right now. South Carolina trails LSU by
1. They have beaten Southern California, Rod Gilmore, and they got it done in the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Let's go down now to Paul Sunderland.
Score correct? It is, and here's why. Stanley Pritchett's 1-yard touchdown run in the rain in Death Valley. Gamecocks lead by 1. To take the lead late in the 4th, Jamie Howard, you know what happened a couple of weeks ago against Auburn. Benji Young the tip, Terry Cousin the pick. Brad Scott is 4-1.
For 100 yards against the Wildcats, the Beavers trying to get it done on the ground, but it's Dan White through the air to Richard Dice, and the wide receiver breaks some tackles, 47 yards for the end zone. Teddy Bruschi has a fumble recovery to set up a field goal. And Arizona leading the Beavers 13-0 early in the 2nd quarter. Colorado State trying to remain unbeaten, 38-31. New Mexico has just kicked a field goal, but they still trail the Rams by a touchdown. Could be another heartbreaking loss for New Mexico. They seem to specialize in them. South Carolina and LSU on the subject of heartbreak. Could the Tigers bounce back down on the bayou where it was real rainy? Stanley Pritchett, halfback pass to Tannehill, to Blake Williamson there. Extra point, no good, 7-6 LSU. LSU driving. Jermaine Sharp apparently stopped, but breaks loose. 36-yard touchdown, 14-6 Bayou Bengals in the 2nd quarter. Carolina driving again. Tannehill to strike to Toby Cates, the nice throw. It made it 14-12. South Carolina came on to score late. They win at 18-17 in Baton Rouge. The critical loss for Curly Hallman and company. They have to go to Gainesville next week. Meanwhile, congratulations to Brad Scott. He ups it to 4-1. UTEP and Hawaii, Rainbow Warriors running the option. Johnny Macon just gets the pitch off. Calvin Melvin, 21 yards for the touchdown. Made it 14-0 Rainbows. UTEP came back, kicked the field goal. That's where it stands at halftime, 14-3. Air Force and San Diego State, 17-14. The Falcons on the road to Jack Murphy, leading early on in the 2nd half. UNLV and New Mexico State. Game's now gone to the 3rd quarter, late in the 3rd quarter, and UNLV has scored a touchdown to take a 4-point lead. Air McNair back at it against Mississippi Valley State. 10 minutes to play in the ball game. McNair was 17 of 25, 226, 2 touchdowns. He's run for a touchdown. The total offense record now 13,531 yards. Brooks trying to win for the first time in for as far as Oregon's concerned, of the Coliseum since '71. Dino Filia takes the handoff, 49 yards for the touchdown, gets popped at the end, 10-zip Ducks. Tony Graziani starting for the injured Danny O'Neill, making his first career start. The southpaw to Kristen McLemore for the touchdown, 16-7 Ducks in the third quarter. Rob Johnson hit in an awkward position, hurts his ankle. It's a badly sprained right ankle. Just a disastrous day for USC as Oregon wins in the Coliseum 22-7. First loss in the conference for USC, and the Ducks win their conference opener. Iowa State, Oklahoma. Oh, I don't know. The Stones played in Cyclone Stadium. That was the entertainment in Norman. Cyclones continue with the trouble. Jeff St. Clair rolls left, floats it up for Calvin Branch. They missed the point, though. They still led 6-0 after a quarter. Then James Allen weaves his way. Extra effort. Gets in the end zone. The Sooners ran the wishbone with Terrence Brown. He had a touchdown run. Garrick McGee at one point had 11 straight completions. Cyclone fans, circle October 29. Your chance to win a game. You play Missouri. And North Carolina against SMU. The Ponies actually led in this ball game, but the Tar Heels come back, win it in Dallas, 28-24. Craig, you're 47 to go before halftime. It's the Wildcats, 5-13. Still 10 points for the Wildcats. Brewski, a fumble recovery to set up a field goal. It's a final. Colorado State goes to 5-0. New Mexico stays winless, 38-31. Stony Case, another big night in defeat, 363 yards.
Also won 22 straight games within their conference. Their last year in the Southwest before moving on to what is currently known as the Big 8, opening up conference play against Texas Tech. Aggie officers all fired up about this one. First quarter, scoreless. Texas Tech back to punt. Jason Andrews makes the block. A&M recovers on the 1-yard line. And a 1-yard touchdown to make it 7-0. 1 minute left in the half. Corey Pullock back to pass. Marcus Coleman picks him off, and he would take it down the sideline for the touchdown. Tech led 17-7 at the break. Fourth quarter, A&M down 4. Pullock, the play action to Chris Sanders, 45 yards down to the 3. A 1-yard touchdown, put him up 20-17. Final play, Tech down 23-17. Zebby Lethridge, one last chance, scrambles, throws, incomplete. Texas A&M wins it 23-17. Pullock said, as you can guess, we all had Colorado in the back of our minds on that final play. A&M 55-3-1 at Kyle Field since late in the '84 season. Virginia Tech.
Oregon State 20-10. The Beavers have never won in Tucson. So far, the offensive star of the game, Antoine Carter, 17 carries, 98 yards, and we'll update this score throughout the show.
For the conference title, Gene Stallings hoping his offense could contain and keep up with Eric Zier. Game tied at 7 in the second. Eric Zier to Hassan Graham. 23 yards it goes. 4 touchdowns for Eric Zier. For Alabama in the fourth, Jay Barker getting in on the act. A 35-yard toss to Todrick Malone. Malone 8 catches for 173 yards. Still in the fourth, tied down 2. Mike Proctor hits the 32-yard field goal. Bama's only lead of the game, 29-28. Could Zier lead the Bulldogs back under 30 seconds to go? 4th and 6. Zier overthrows Juan Williams, and Bama hangs on for the victory, 29-28. Jay Barker was 26 of 33 for a career-high 396 yards, the second-best yardage performance in school history behind Scott Hunter. As a starter, Barker is now 28-1-1. Big numbers again for Eric Zier, 25 of 33 for 263, 4 touchdown passes, and he became the SEC's all-time yardage leader in the process. For the second quarter, Arizona leading 6-0. Dan White, a short pass to Richard Dice, but he makes it into this. A 47-yard touchdown, Arizona leading 13-0. After gaining 114 yards, Antonio Carter suffers an ankle injury and had to leave the game. Forced to abandon his traditional rushing offense, Tomey discusses options with White. 4th and 4, they come up with this. White hits Dice again, 34 yards. Arizona wins it going away, 30-10. The Wildcats remain undefeated and have never lost to Oregon State at home in 9 games. Desert Swarm limited Oregon State's wishbone to 185 yards, more than 100.
Renee, salute. Now for the rest of the week, good and bad, big and small.
As usual, we're here with a tip or two to help you get a handle on Saturday number 5 of the college football season. Bama's Jay Barker rallied the Tide past Georgia with a career-best 396 yards Saturday, the second-best passing game in Alabama history. Barker is now 28-1-1 as the Tide starting quarterback. Idaho's Eric Keesaw vandalized cross-state rival Idaho State, 17 of 26 for 374 yards and 5 TDs in a 70-21 rout. Those the most points given up by Idaho State since 1919. Stanford's Steve Stenstrom hit the air 59 times, completed 37 of them, 360 yards, tying Cardinal predecessor John Elway for second all-time in the Pac-10 Conference with 9,349 career yards. The result of Stenstrom's efforts, though, proved less than scintillating. The Cardinal ran 91 plays to Notre Dame's 51 plays, yet they lost 34-15. Our rundown of the week's best runners starts with Colorado's Rashaan Salam. The Buffalo Soldier two-stepped his way through the Texas defense for a career-high 317 yards, the most by a Colorado back since 1971, the most yards ever amassed against the Longhorns in one game. The 34-31 setback was the first home loss for Texas where they scored 30 or more points in the entire 102-year history of football at UT. Texas now a mere 250-1 in such contests. Washington's Napoleon Kaufman had a career-high 227 yards, including a personal best, a 79-yard dash in a 37-10 crushing of UCLA. Wisconsin's Brett Moss had his 15th consecutive 100-yard game and became the third 3,000-yard rusher in Badger history. He's at 31-25 for his career. And we've talked about him for weeks. Meet Butler's Arnold Mickens. Mickens ran 45 times for 293 yards Saturday versus Drake. Hi, Arnold. Bye, Arnold. Mickens has been quietly tearing up Middle America this season, setting school records with over 200 yards in each of his last 3 outings. On the defensive, kudos go to the Oregon Ducks. A dominant performance holding SC to 31 yards on the ground while recording 9 sacks in a 22-7 win. The Ducks' first triumph at USC in over 2 decades. Tough day for the nation's top defense. Illinois, number 1 in the country, yielding 123 yards per game, could not stop Purdue. Led by backs Corey Rogers and Mike Alstott, the Boilers had 351 total yards and stopped the Illini on the game's final play. 5 foot 7 inch, 181-pound John Jackson nailing 6 foot 6 inch, 255-pound tight end Ken Dilger 1 yard short of the tying touchdown. At the other defensive end, New Mexico showed why it is the nation's 105th worst defense. The Lobos have allowed 41 points per game, including 38 to Colorado State, allowing Rams QB Anthony Hill a career-best 364 yards passing, plus the 3 TDs. Yet the 0-5 Lobos still had a chance thanks to quarterback Stoney Case. Case closed with 363 yards and 3 touchdowns of his own, but he fell short when his attempt for the game-tying touchdown was intercepted in the end zone by CSU's Raymond Jackson just as time expired. Colorado State goes for its first 6-0 start since 1925. That happens next Saturday at Arizona.
What is considered proper here? Are they the 100?
Charlie Ward, Casey Weldon, and Gino Torretta all lost their first Florida State-Miami game. Meet Danny Cannell. History says he won't play well, especially before 78,000 screaming people. Go with the Canes to regain their strut. Notre Dame at Boston College. David Gordon says he doesn't want to be known for just one kick. Sorry, David. There'll be no Eagles heroes this year. Mark Hartzell returns from a hand injury to revive the BC offense, but Notre Dame has a 16-game road winning streak. There's no Lee Becton. There's no Ray Zellers. Freshman Ron Paulus is the senior guy in the Irish backfield. But Randy Kinder and Mark Edwards will do fine. Lou Holtz says the Irish aren't looking for revenge. They'll find some anyway. Let's go to the South and Tony Barnhart.
Auburn at Mississippi State. Now, Auburn's won 16 straight, but the Bulldogs have a plan. Stop Stephen Davis and force Patrick Nix to throw into a very talented secondary. But Auburn's best offense is its defense. They forced 14 turnovers and scored 6 touchdowns in their last 3 games. It won't be easy, but the Auburn streak should continue with Florida waiting in the wings. LSU at Florida. With 8 interceptions in his last 2 games, quarterback Jamie Howard is in Curly Hallman's doghouse. But he'd rather be there than face a Florida defense ranked number 1 against the rush, number 8 overall. 2 Florida starters are injured, but it won't matter. The Gators go to 26-1 at home under coach Steve Spurrier. And finally, Texas versus Oklahoma. The eyes of Texas are on a banged-up football team. Quarterback Shea Moritz hasn't practiced. He'll be limited if he plays. But the problems are on a defense that gave up 387 yards rushing to Colorado. That's good news for the Sooners, who went back to the wishbone with 334 yards last week. Looks like a big day for James Allen, a big day for OU. They win their second straight in Big D. Now let's go out to the Midwest and Gary Danielson.
The next time someone says defenses win championships, point out Illinois. There's not a better defense in the country, but an inconsistent offense has kept them at 2-2. Key to their team, quarterback Johnny Johnson. When he's hot, they're tough to beat. For Ohio State, Eddie George is emerging as that running back Ohio State always seems to have. But if he has trouble running, Ohio State will have trouble with pass protection with those Illini linebackers. 5 sacks, and Illinois will upset Ohio State. Michigan State last week proved they still play that tough physical football. But what worries Michigan is that newfound speed, like redshirt freshman Ike Reese, he's their leading tackler. They're causing turnovers and winning football games. Michigan's Ty Wheatley, he's finally 100%. But he says he's quicker and faster than a year ago because he's dropped 15 pounds. Now last year he was held to just 33 yards by the Spartans. Saturday, I think he's going to get 100 yards, and Michigan will take control of this one late and beat Michigan State. Now to the West Beat and Gene Wojciechowski.
The good news is that Colorado State is ranked, playing a ranked opponent for the first time since, well, ever. The bad news is Arizona. 3 starters returned to the Wildcats lineup, including linebacker Thomas Demps, the guy who makes the double eagle flex defense really work. But the Wildcats will be busy. Ram quarterback Anthony Hill's a terror when he scrambles. Fullback E.J. Watson is averaging 110 yards. Arizona will win, but it won't be easy. Oregon won last week without its best quarterback, tailback, and cornerback. Can the Ducks do it again? No. Washington State has the nation's best defense. Plus, they get linebacker Mark Fields and tackle Dwayne Sanders back from injury. Oregon's 3-game win streak against the Cougars ends today.
Wow, big rivalry. Report hidden video. Rhode Island at UMass last week. That's running back Renee Ingoglia on the option. Rips off the long gain. Ingoglia to the goal line. 313 yards on 28 carries. It's a Yankee Conference record. He's second in 1AA in rushing, recruited by Syracuse, Penn State, Wisconsin. Then he blew out his knee. The Minuteman took a chance on him. It's
was the year Kansas and Kansas State combined for a record of 1-21. The two teams got together, and the fans, who largely stayed home that year, called it the Toilet Bowl. 6 years later, the fans have come back. Kansas State is on the heels of its best season in 62 years, with maybe the best quarterback you've never heard of. His name, Chad May. Kansas and Kansas State getting together on Thursday. That would be the aforementioned Mr. May. Play action, first quarter. He finds Kevin Lockett, and Lockett finds the ball with an outstretched one-handed grab. Nice concentration. Second quarter, May with the shovel pass to J.J. Smith. Smith, 22, kind of reminds you of somebody. 8-yard score, Kansas State up 7-0. 3 plays after that, Kansas punts away. That is Mitch running. He is running, and then he is not running. Ouch. Right out of The Exorcist. Watch again as his head does a 180 and his body does a nothing. He would be okay, and he would return to play in this game. Second half of the game, Chad May continuing his outstanding performance. He's under pressure, and watch the sidestep. Steps up, throws for Lockett once again. That completion would set up a 1-yard touchdown run, and as you might imagine, Glenn May, son, is not happy. Kansas down 21-0, but the Jayhawks would come back. Ashiki Preston to Ashundi Smith. The famous combination of Ashiki to Ashundi. It's a score, and we've got a ball game, 21-13. Time winding down, 3rd and 13. Kansas State does it again. The combination of May to Lockett. Lockett had 8 catches on the night for 117 yards, and it's only mid-season, but they're already bringing down the goalposts. Kansas State is a winner, 21-13. We asked, do they like to pass? You bet they do. At halftime, they had 270 yards through the air, 1 yard on the ground. It is their 30th win of the 1990s. They had just 22 wins in all of the 1980s. Chad May throws for 370 yards, and even he is starting to hear the Heisman noise.
Oh, you know, the Heisman in the back of my mind. My number one goal is to win the Big 8 championship, and if the Heisman comes along with it, then that's fine. But you know, we're not out here to showcase talent on this team. We're out here to win football games, and you know, I just try to do the best I can and win for the team, and that's how I take each game.
May picks up his 13th win as the K-State starter, perhaps his most impressive number, 166 throws without an INT. That will win you a lot of games. More on this stat later in the Did You Know? Carl.
The chronology. First conference win. First play from scrimmage, Tommy Luganville to Omar Cassidy. 77-yard touchdown, 7-0 Jackets. Tar Heels start hitting back. Look at the hit by Jimmy Hitchcock. They were missing him early in the year, knocked Derek Stiegel out of the game for a while. Tar Heel offense gets going. Jason Stanisiak questionable because of the rib injury. Looks fine here. 19 yards to Darren Ashford. First passing TD allowed by the Tech defense. They're just getting ready to start the second half. Right now in Chapel Hill, all even. Tech is playing well, 17-17. In the Big East, Virginia Tech, looking to bounce back after the loss at Syracuse, leads Temple 14-0. The Owls looking for their first ever Big East Conference win. Syracuse mentioning the orange. Stewart. The screen, Rashaan Salam. Texas still seeing them in their dreams this week. Big play by Salam, 41 yards to the 1. And then the great play fake by Stewart to a wide open tight end, Christian Fourier in the end zone. So many options, tough to defend, especially for a Missouri team that's 1-3, and that win was only against Houston. Right now, the Buffs lead by 17 in Columbia in the third quarter. In the Big East, Virginia Tech bouncing back from the loss at Syracuse, leading Temple handily. They'll win this game 41-7 on homecoming in Blacksburg. Speaking of the Qs, the Orange home for homecoming against the Pittsburgh Panthers. Kevin Mason has come in for Marvin Graves and really looked sharp running this complex offense. Touchdown pass to the receiver out of the backfield, Kirby Dardar. Qs led 24-0, 31-0 after Mason tucks it under for his second touchdown of the day. Folks, Syracuse had over 400 yards rushing the ball on the ground today. 618 total yards for the game. A week off, then Temple, then a week off. Kind of figure the Orangemen are going to be 6-1 with Miami coming into the Dome on the first Saturday of November. Let's get you back to the Big Ten, and looky here in Evanston, Northwestern, which took Ohio State down to the final minute last week, leading Wisconsin. Of course, Wisconsin playing without Darrell Bevel. The quarterback has a separated shoulder. Indiana's last win in Iowa City was 1979, Hayden Fry's first game as the coach of the Hawkeyes. And right now, Bill Mallory's Hoosiers leading by 7, starting the third quarter. Also in the conference, they played that wild 59-56 shootout last year. Maybe doing the same thing. Minnesota leading Purdue by 6 in the third quarter as the Gophers look to making 5 out of the last 6. Coming up, we're going to be looking ahead to Florida. No, they knew that they had a tough game at Scott Field in Starkville. Stephen Davis, a 1-yard run to start, and the Tigers have just scored again. Terry's Tigers looking to continue the nation's longest win streak and make it 17, leading the Bulldogs of Jackie Sherrill by 14. They're still in the first quarter. Of course, later on 7, but Philip Fulmer rallies the troops up 35-7. Peyton Manning to James Stewart. Nice cutback between 4 Hog defenders and hurtling into the end zone for the touchdown. That's now a final. Tennessee wins this game. They're back to 500. They're 500 in the conference, and next week, third Saturday in October, Alabama, Tennessee on ESPN. What a wild game this is in Columbia. East Carolina took a 27-0 lead. South Carolina has charged back, and right now East Carolina has the ball with a 7-point lead. In the Southwest Conference, Texas Tech had a 14-0 lead on Rice. The Owls have been kind of chipping away and chipping away. It's a close game in the fourth quarter in Houston in the rain. Starting play for the Commanders-in-Chiefs trophy, which Air Force has dominated over the last decade plus. Right now they lead Navy by 12. Western Michigan was unbeaten in the MAC until today. Central Michigan wins this one in Mount Pleasant, so Western Michigan loses for the first time with Jay McDonough as their quarterback. Not a good day for Akron. Miami of Ohio dominating, sending Jerry Faust's team down to 0-5. In the Big West, Northern Illinois trying to get its first conference win. And if they can hand New Mexico State a second loss, that could hurt the Aggies' chances to win the conference. The Ivy League action from today, Penn clearly the dominant team in the Ivy, going out of conference to move their record to 3-0. Penn is ranked 14th in Division I AA. Some of the other scores, Columbia beats Fordham to get its second win on the season. The Fordham Rams fall to 0-6. More updates canoeing coming up in 3 minutes. Golf at the bottom of the hour.
Well, Brent, as you know, they've lost 4 consecutive games to Cal, and no team in the Pac-10 has beaten them 5 straight times. Darren Washington here, 26 yards for the touchdown, but it ties the game at 7 apiece. That's where it stands now. Brent.
Scores and highlights. The Vatican Bowl went to Boston College today. Second down here now for the Illini. Doutherd stuffed
Wendell Brown from Detroit.
Yeah, they did a nice job there. They used step around.
Boston College got the win. Did not come down to the final play this time, but Boston College gets the win anyway. Clarence Cannon, reverse here, the fake, and then the pass to Greg Rice, 22 yards. It set up a touchdown. 14-3 was the score at that point. 30-11 was the final. We will have complete highlights of Boston College against Notre Dame a little bit later on the Prudential Halftime Report. Oklahoma State facing Nebraska. Lawrence Phillips would have to have a big day, and he did, giving them the lead of 17-3 here on the 2-yard run. Tommy Frazier, as you know, is out for the season. His backup, Brooke Berringer, also had to leave the game. He has the bruised lung. He was 10 of 15 for 75 yards, 5 carries for -2 yards. Matt Turman came in for Berringer. They win it 32-3. Colorado and Missouri. Rashawn Salaam last week had a terrific day, over 300 yards against Texas, and Salaam was at it again. 46 yards on this carry. They finally catch him at the 1-yard line, but he would punch it in for the touchdown. Colorado led 7-0 at that point, blowing it open now 38-15 in the fourth quarter. Salaam has 2 touchdown runs. Cordell Stewart has 2 touchdown passes. Auburn and Mississippi State, a game some of you see here on ABC. 28-6, Auburn has the lead. Terry Bowden has yet to lose as Auburn head coach. Patrick Nix, a big reason why this year, 55 yards to Frank Sanders. And just like that, it's 21-0 for the Auburn Tigers. Mississippi State quarterback Derek Tate was harassed all day long by the Auburn defense. Scott Stacy gets to him here and hauls him down for the sack. Patrick Nix has 3 touchdown passes. Stephen Davis has a 1-yard touchdown run. 28-6 is the score at halftime. Alabama against the Southern Miss. 14-6, Alabama now has the lead. Jay Barker has a touchdown pass in that contest. San Jose State against Washington. Washington having a good year after the early loss to USC. But against San Jose State on this day, it's all tied up at 14 apiece. Napoleon Kaufman, who's running towards the Heisman, had a 91-yard touchdown run on the first play from scrimmage there. Illinois and Ohio State. 10-7, the Buckeyes have the lead. Illinois had plenty of success in recent years in Columbus. Ty Douther from 6 yards out, 7-0. Then Eddie George, over 200 yards last week. The touchdown here, 1 yard out, 10-7. The Buckeyes have the lead there at halftime. Texas and Oklahoma, 7-0. Oklahoma has the lead at halftime. Gerald Moore doing the work with a 23-yard touchdown run to give them the lead, and that's where it stands right now. NC State and Louisville, first meeting since Johnny Unitas was the quarterback for the Cardinals. 7-7 is where they stand. Chris Fitzpatrick with a 6-yard touchdown run. Oregon and Washington State. Washington State doing it this year with defense. And in this game in the Pac-10, it's just now underway, and it is a scoreless contest. We will, of course, keep you updated throughout the day. Northwestern held tough with Wisconsin for a while, but 46-14, the Badgers blowing them out. Brent Moss looking for his 16th straight game of over 100 yards. Terrell Fletcher has 3 touchdown runs there. Top 25 teams that are idle on this day include Penn State 4 consecutive times. They've never lost to a team 5 straight times in the Pac-10, but they are down now 19-7 to Cal. Minnesota and Purdue, remember last year, 59-56 was the final. Looks like a repeat. 49-35, Purdue has the lead. Also in the Big Ten, Indiana over Iowa, 27-20. Alex Smith had a 5-yard touchdown run. Ryan Driscoll, the starting quarterback for Iowa, was knocked out with a broken collarbone. Navy against Air Force, 43-21. Navy continues to struggle and looks for their first win of the year. Air Force jets flying over the stadium, and Air Force was flying over the stadium as well. Preston McConnell, 14-yard touchdown run. 29-7 at that point. 43-21 is the lead. And SMU and Baylor, 44-10. Baylor has the lead in the fourth quarter. Rubin with 2 touchdown runs, 1 of 24 yards. Wilkin team is undefeated. And here's the reason why. Terry Dean, 6 yards to Jack Jackson, 13-0 at that point. Terry Dean is keeping this one all the way on the ground. 6 yards on the run, 29-3. Dean, 20 of 38, 217 yards, 1 touchdown pass, and 1 touchdown run as Florida marches on. George Perlis of Michigan State, well, his team knocked off Michigan last year, and one of the reasons was they were able to hold Tyrone Wheatley in check, but not this day. 5 yards through the air. Wheatley hauls this one in, 10-6. Tyrone Wheatley, 23 carries, 153 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. Tim Biakabatuka, 15 carries, 141 yards. North Carolina holds off Georgia Tech as Jason Stanisiak becomes the school's all-time total offense leader. 31-24 was that final. Virginia Tech a week ago a loser to Syracuse. Their first loss of the season. They bounced back in a big way against Temple, 41-13. Maurice DeShazo, 115 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. Syracuse wins again for the 5th. Was this man, Eric Zeier. 21 yards he hooks up with Bryce Hunter to give Georgia a 10-0 lead. Zeier finishing 24 of 40, 328 yards and 2 touchdowns. Georgia's won 14 straight non-conference games. And after the game, Zeier spoke with us about his chances of winning the Heisman.
You know, it is exciting and it is fun, and it's a great honor. But I've never seen one individual ever win a football game by himself. It takes the entire team, and that's what those awards are. They're reflections of the kind of team you have around you. So our focus and my focus is on winning football games and doing things as a football team.
Zeier moving into the top 10 for passing in his career as well. Rutgers against Army, and Rutgers squeaks out the win 16-14. Robert Higgins, 12 of 19, 139 yards and 2 touchdown passes, including the game winner. Bruce Presley, 26 carries, 123 yards. Arkansas against Tennessee, and the Volunteers win it 38-21. Peyton Manning, 12 of 18, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was picked off once. James Stewart, 11 carries, 85 yards and a touchdown. He's now in 2nd place on Tennessee's all-time rushing list. Youngstown State against North Alabama as 2 champions from last year hook up in Division I AA and Division II. Only the 2nd time that's ever happened. The Division I AA champ gets the win this time around. Texas Southern and Alcorn State. Steve McNair, the watch is still on. 18 yards to Kobe Jenkins on the nice touch pass there, 14-0 at that point. McNair had another terrific day as they win 28-21. He had 4 touchdown passes in the day, 328 yards, 27 of 52. He also had 48 yards on the ground, so Steve McNair stares.
We're seeking a 7th straight win over the LSU Tigers, and with a record of just 1-3, the Bayou Bengals were heavy underdogs going into this one. LSU's Curly Halming got a first-hand look at why the Gators are ranked number 1. First, Florida's running game, Fred Taylor takes the draw outside, powers his way over the goal line. A little bit of help here at the end from a teammate right there. Florida up 7-0. How about the special teams? Chad Kesley's punt is blocked by the Gators. And that, after a mad scramble, would set up the passing game. Terry Dean rolling out, hits Jack Jackson. 5 yards for the touchdown. The conversion fails. Gators up 13-0. How about this? Ronnie Lott's cousin right here. Anthony picking it off and going 82 yards. And look at the dance at the end on that interception return. Florida rolls over LSU in the SEC. The final in the swamp for Steve Spurrier and his squad, 42-18. The Gators have now won 17 straight Southeastern Conference games at home, where they are just about unbeatable. In Lincoln this week, the 2nd-ranked Cornhuskers had to contend with the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the loss of quarterback Tommy Frazier out for the season after surgery to remove blood clots in the back of his knee. On top of that, backup Brooke Behringer would have to play while recovering from a partially collapsed lung, and he didn't make it through the entire afternoon. They start him young in Cornhusker land. 2nd quarter, Nebraska trailing 3-0. Lawrence Phillips plunges in from 2 yards out. It was 6-0 Cornhuskers. Later in the second, Brooke Behringer, the shovel pass to Clinton Childs for 17 yards. That would set up a field goal. 3rd quarter, Phillips once again into the end zone for another score. Huskers go for the 2-point conversion. Matt Turbin for the injured Behringer rolls out. Hits Eric Alford for the deuce. Nebraska up 17-3. Huskers would get another touchdown. The extra point try, very interesting. John Verdval muffs the snap. Looks as though he's going to be tackled by defenders, but he tosses it up. The kicker, Darren Erstedt, brings in the pass for the 2-point conversion. That made it 25-3, and Nebraska goes on to win it over Oklahoma State. The final there was 32-3, so Nebraska remains undefeated. Phillips, 33 carries, 221 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He is over 1,000 yards for the season. Number 5, Colorado taking on Missouri. That's former USC coach Larry Smith in the conference opener. Opening drive for Colorado. Rashaan Salaam explodes up the middle, blows by the secondary, finally brought down at the 1 after a 46-yard gain. They would score to make it 7-0. Colorado's second drive. Rashaan Salaam again finds another big hole. This time he will pick up 31 yards. Then he gets the swing pass, breaks out for another 41 yards to set up a second touchdown. He finished with 166 yards on the day and a couple of scores. Still in the first quarter, big Buffalo defense. Jeff Handy's pass is tipped Donnell Liamidi picks it off and returns it 30 yards for 6 points, and Colorado rolls over Missouri. 38-23 was the final there, and Cordell Stewart, 228 yards passing, a couple of touchdown passes. But the big story the last couple of weeks for the Buffs has been Russian Rashan, 166 yards today against Missouri. He now has 994 on the season, along with 12 scores. Last week against Texas, he rolled for 317 yards, and it was over 100 degrees in Austin for that one. When college football today continues, the Irish and Wolverines go looking for revenge. Irish ventured into Boston's Chestnut Hill looking for revenge, but the Eagles were believing that once was not enough, and that's how this one would turn out. BC coach Dan Henning, the new coach, pulling out all the stops. Second quarter, they line up for the field goal, but the holder, Matt Hasselbeck, keeps it, and he would rumble for a first down, and Lou Holtz was a bit stunned by that one. And that would set up this. On the next play, David Green goes in from 6 yards out. Boston College up 7-3 over the Irish at the half. And they're loving it. Third quarter, Justice Smith takes the handoff, and he takes it in from 7 yards out. The Eagles up 21-3. BC blew a big lead last year, hoping not to repeat. Randy Kinder, sweeping left, goes 15 yards to cut the Eagles' lead to 24-11. But Ron Paulus had a terrible game. Looking deep for Derek Mays. He gets picked by Terrence Wiggins. He would finish with just 50 yards passing. Then BC iced it. Smith takes it in again. The fans in Chestnut Hill are celebrating. Boston College does it again. They knock off Notre Dame for the second consecutive season. 30-11 was the final score. That is Notre Dame's first road loss since November 16th of '91. Justice Smith, 27 carries, 144 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. He was the big hero for the Eagles. For college football rivalries, it doesn't get much uglier than Texas and Oklahoma. Each and every fall for the past 89 years, the Longhorns and Sooners and their followers have descended on Dallas to paint the town, pick a few fights, and then knock heads down at the Cotton Bowl. Longhorns playing without their quarterback Shea Marin's out with a knee injury, so the defense had to step it up. Chris Akins pounces on this fumble by the Sooners, but Texas was not able to take advantage. Marin's backup, James Brown, is picked off by Larry Bush. Both defenses playing stingy in this one. But later, the Sooners, James Allen, gets loosed. He'll bust through a hole, and he will go 40 yards on this run. And then moments later, Gerald Moore breaks some tackles. He's going 24 yards for the touchdown. OU was up 7-0. That fires up the Sooner defense. Baron Tanner drills Juan Kemp, and that, folks, deserves a salute. But later, Texas takes the lead. Third quarter, Brown scrambles. Looking. Can't find anybody. He takes off 10 yards for the touchdown. The Longhorns are up over the Sooners by a score of now 17-7 in the fourth quarter of that one. Gary Gibbs only 1-4 against Texas since he's been the Oklahoma coach, and they don't like that in Norman. Michigan State taking on number 7 Michigan, who they beat last year. Let's go to the big house where Gerald Ford, his number was retired. Michigan State hoping to ruin his day. Najee Carter goes 61 yards with this catch. That set up a Spartan field goal to tie it up at 3 apiece. But it was all Wolverines after that. Todd Collins finds Tyrone Wheatley. He makes the adjustment, 5 yards for the touchdown. Wolverines up 10-6. And Tyrone was just getting started. Here he shreds the Spartans for another 25 yards. And then after going off and getting his shoulder taped, Tyrone was back for more. He'll bust up the middle, and he won't stop till he gets another 6. Michigan with a 20-6 lead. Then the Wolverines' other back, Tim Biakabatuka, goes 26 yards for the touchdown. Michigan routs Michigan State and George Perlis. The final in the big house was 40-20. Wheatley, 23 carries, 153 yards, and 3 touchdowns as Michigan rolled up 349 yards on the ground for just 13 for the Spartans. Still on probation, but back on television, Terry Bowden and his 9th-ranked Auburn Tigers rode the nation's longest win streak at 16 games into Starkville, Mississippi, where only the Bulldogs at State stood between Terry's Tigers and matching a school record for consecutive victories between 1956 and 1958. Fans in Starkville waiting, hoping for the upset, but Bowden's crew has something to say about that. Patrick Nix dumps it off to Harold Morrow on the screen. He's going to go 44 yards before he is finally tossed out of bounds. A couple of plays later, Auburn picks up the blitz. Nix finds Frank Sanders over the middle, 20 yards for the touchdown, 14-0 Auburn. Huge day for Sanders, in fact. The fake pitch by Nix. And then Sanders splitting the defense, 56 yards on that big play. He had 175 yards receiving by the third quarter. Auburn with a 35-6 lead at that point. And in the fourth quarter, they are sitting on a 35-12 lead over the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Number 11, Alabama, 14-6. They lead it over Southern Miss. That one in the fourth quarter. And number 12, Washington, with a 27-17 lead over San Jose State in a game being played up in Seattle. Another big rivalry has yet to kick it off. We'll preview the Florida State-Miami blood war when college football today continues. But first, here's a list of big games. Shot to the ribs and a close win over Southern Methodist. The Ramblin' Wreck came to Chapel Hill after a 21-13 loss to Clemson, in which the officials took away a late touchdown by Georgia Tech that could have made a difference. Second play of the game, Georgia Tech draws first blood. Tommy Luganville drops back and hits Omar Cassidy 77 yards for the touchdown, and Tech was up by a score of 7-0. But the Tar Heels would answer. Jason Stanhek, sick. I guess the ribs are okay. Hits a wide open Darren Ashford for the score. It's tied at 7. Late in the half, Luganville hooks up with Cassidy again. It was 17-7 at the half. Fourth quarter now, tied at 24. Leon Johnson plunges in from a yard out. The Tar Heels go on to win it 31-24. That is their third straight win in the series. Johnson, 22 carries, 108 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. Louisville taking on NC State for the first time since Johnny Unitas was the quarterback. They lead it 21-14 in the third quarter. The Illini taking on the Buccos of Ohio State. First quarter action. Look at that guy. Bobby Hoying has his pass picked by Dana Howard. He laterals to Antoine Patton, and Patton takes it all the way into Buckeye territory. Not all the way, but in good position. And that would set up a touchdown by Todd Douthert. And look at the effort here. The Illini thinking upset with a 7-0 lead. Buckeyes answer later in the second. Eddie George finds pay dirt. They had a field goal. They led it 10-7 at the half. Into the third, and Johnny Johnson will find a wide open Jasper Strong. He takes it in 49 yards for the touchdown. The Illini led it 17-10 at this point in the fourth quarter, and that is where this one stands right now. The Illini looking for the mild upset in Columbus. Northwestern falls to Wisconsin. The score there was 46-14. Terrell Fletcher ran for 3 touchdowns. Brent Moss over 100 yards for the 16th consecutive game. Temple taking on Virginia.
Tomorrow.
Texas State Fair, Texas and Oklahoma. The story here, Shea Morenz, the Longhorn quarterback, hurt against Colorado. Would he play? The answer was no. They'll turn to James Brown to be the story. As Morenz watched against Gary Gibbs' team, he watched James Brown throw the touchdown pass to Pat Fitzgerald, and Texas grabs a 17-7 lead. Gibbs, who always struggles in October. In the fourth quarter, it's 17-10. Garrick McGee nearly picked off with time running down. That would have cinched it, but it wasn't complete. It's fourth down. They go for it. They run a reverse. It's James Allen. He's stopped by the Longhorn defense. Just feet from the goal line. And Texas wins this great rivalry as they have 5 of the last 6 times. 17-10. The Golden Hat will go to Austin as Texas improves its record now to 4-1. Bryant Westbrook, 2 big picks. Huge win for the Longhorns. In the Big Ten, Illinois at Ohio State. Bobby Hoying and the Buckeyes are driving. But Dana Howard, who Thursday guaranteed a win, comes up with the interception, then laterals to Antoine Patton. Patton gets some damage done, brings it down the field, and would help the Illini get in position for a Ty Douthert touchdown. Highlight of the day for Ohio State, tied at 7, right before the half. Josh Jackson, 35-yard field goal. Buckeyes to the locker room up 10-7. But last play of the third quarter, Ohio State's offense bogged down. Johnny Johnson did not. Big ball for Jasper Strong. Blown coverage, 49-yard touchdown. The Illini would add one more, walk into the big horseshoe, and walk out with a 14-point win and the Illabuk Trophy. 2 touchdown passes for Johnson. Auburn, would they be looking past Mississippi State to Florida next week? Terry's Tigers, great game. Patrick Nix to Frank Sanders. Watch the block by Harold Morrow on Reggie Wilson. It led to a Stephen Davis touchdown. Nix was really hot. Great play fake here to set up Sanders. The Colonel up the seam into the end zone. A great day for Nix and Sanders. Frustration on the Mississippi State side as Auburn's defense put it to a frustrated Jackie Sherrill Bulldog offensive unit. Very impressive. You go into Starkville where Tennessee lost, and you walk out with a 24-point win. Patrick Nix, 3 touchdown passes. Stephen Davis, 2 touchdown runs, 17 straight for the Tigers. Lou Holtz said...
7-0 Cal.
Second quarter, UCLA quarterback Wayne Cook from the shotgun. The draw play to Darren Washington. He breaks it right up the middle, breaks a couple of tackles, goes 26 yards for 6. It was tied to 7. Second quarter, Golden Bears suffered a huge loss. Dave Barr, under pressure, sacked by Donnie Edwards. He was lost with a broken collarbone. Fourth quarter now, UCLA trailing 19-7. Backup Ryan Feen tries to make something happen, fires into double coverage, picked off by Andre Rose. He goes 22 yards for the touchdown. Golden Bears run away with this one. The score was 26-7. UCLA has been outscored 133-38 in their 4 losses this season. Napoleon Kaufman, 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. Washington over San Jose State by...
One of the unbeatens will fall when Colorado State and Arizona is done. Early in the first, Anthony Hill touchdown to Justin Shule, the tight end. Colorado State had a chance for a field goal in the second quarter. They missed it. Steve McLaughlin did not miss his. Right now, Colorado State leading Arizona by 4. We'll keep a close eye on this, as they will, on SportsCenter. Texas A&M moving on in the Astrodome. They struggled early. It was scoreless after 1, but they will easily send Houston to 0-5. The Aggies unbeaten. Utah also unbeaten, taking on San Diego State. Tim Gutierrez, the quarterback for the Aztecs, to Ken Overby, 9 yards for the score. Game tied at 7, but bad news for Aztec fans on this play. Gutierrez hit from behind by Bronzell Miller. Gutierrez, broken clavicle. He will have surgery this evening, out for the season. Utah has come back and added another touchdown from Mike McCoy, and right now the Utes, first time in the poll in 47 years, they lead by 10. Well, Florida State, Miami. We talked about the quarterbacks in your first Florida State-Miami game. Last year, Frank Costa didn't get it done. This year he did. Now he's standing by with Mike Adamle.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Frank Costa, how sweet it is. You said you waited 364 days for this moment. Tonight, sweet redemption.
No feeling like this in the world. I mean, there were so many people doubting us and our team and really me. And they said I couldn't win a big game. And they said we couldn't beat Florida State with me being a quarterback. And all those guys over at ESPN, Craig James and everybody, hey, we beat them.
There were also questions that perhaps after the loss to Washington, that Miami's dynasty was on the wane. A lot of questions answered there in that respect as well.
We're right back in it. We're right back in the national championship hunt. And that's our only goal, and we're right back where we need to be. Beat the number 3 team in the country, played great at home, and hey, we can't ask for anything else. If people want to keep doubting us, hey, we'll just keep winning.
Frank, Gino was talking to us tonight about the pressures of inheriting the mantle here at quarterback. How tough has the pressure been on you this season? You've obviously been able to adapt somewhat.
Well, I'm dealing with it a lot better this year than I did last year. And, it was kind of tough for me last year, following the footsteps of Heisman Trophy winner, won a national championship, played for it another year. And, it was tough for me. But, I'm dealing with it a lot better this year. I'm really not listening to what anybody says, and I use it as positive fuel. And right now it's working out for me, and I'm going to continue to keep that same attitude.
Frank, congratulations. Enjoy the victory. You're back in the hunt.
All right.
Michael?
Mike, thank you. We're going to get right back down to the Orange Bowl, to Chris Craig and the coach. We'll bring in Bino Cook as well momentarily for more on this game. Now, if you didn't catch it, if you were out at a game today from Seattle, earlier on the first play of the game, a 91-yard touchdown run, then a 3, and then this, a 76-yard scamper. Kaufman, a career high, 254 yards. That's his 3rd time over 200 yards this year. He breaks O.J. Simpson's Pac-10 record, 3,575 yards, as Washington struggles but beats San Jose State by 14. Boy, in the Pac-10, a couple of teams that have really gotten off to disappointing conference starts. Exciting play here. Damon Dunn takes the kickoff at his own goal line, and the Stanford returner is gone. 100 yards on the nose, a big touchdown for Stanford. As Bill Walsh's team trying to bounce back. At that point, that was their only touchdown, and it still is. At the half, Arizona State leads 28, despite the fact that Steve Stenstrom has become the Pac-10's all-time leading passer. Fresno State and BYU. First quarter, no score. Fresno's first play from scrimmage. David Dunn, how about some razzle-dazzle? Takes the reverse. And he's going to pass to a wide-open Charlie Jones. 67 yards for the score. Fresno takes a 7-0 lead at that point. Since then, BYU's been able to chip back. Fresno did lead 14-0. That lead is now down to 2 in the second.
Florida State game would not be a matchup of 2 top 10 teams. First time since '87 that neither went in number 1 or 2. Dennis Erickson didn't seem to mind, and when a coach is that fired up, Just imagine what the players were like. The Orange Bowl would be juiced for this one. As seen earlier tonight on ESPN, Hurricanes were looking to blow the torch off the Seminoles. Already forcing one muff punt. FSU gets the punter Mike Christie again. They block it. FSU would get 14 points on blocked punts. The score was tied at 14. Backup quarterback Ryan Collins in there for one reason, to give him an option. The option is to pass. Hits Derek Harris in the end zone. 21-14 Miami. No ego. Costa doesn't mind sitting out a play or two. Late third quarter, 24-17. Danny Cannell passing out of his end zone. Picked off by Carlos Jones, who scampers him 16 yards for the touchdown. Cannell would be frustrated, as you would understand and expect. Costa had it last year. This time it's Cannell. Miami wins it 34-20. Speaking of Cannell, had the rough outing, picked off 3 times. Remember, Charlie Ward, in his first start ever against Miami, had 2 interceptions. Look at him. He's in the NBA. Frank Costa afterwards talked about the game of his young career. The A&M fans giving their team an idea. Let's put it up in the air. Second quarter, Corey Pulig to Ryan Matthews for the touchdown. 36-yard score, and it was a rout. Houston didn't cross midfield until midway in the third quarter. 10th straight loss for them overall. The Cougars have been outscored 173-27 this season. Southern Miss visiting the Crimson Tide. Homecoming weekend in Alabama. Tide beat the Eagles at homecoming last year, 40-zip. Heath Graham sacked by Damian Jeffries. That's Matt Parker picks it up and scores. 14-6 tied at the half. Jay Barker injured his shoulder in the third quarter. More on him in a sec. He had to leave the game 2 minutes ago. 14-6. Eagles driving for the tie, but Graham is picked off by Sam Shea. The guy should be a detective. Crimson Tide. They go off with a 14-6 win. King and queen for the day. 14-6, Alabama gets it done. The Tide moves to 6-0. The last 5 wins have come by an average of just 7.2 points. The competition has not been stellar. On Barker, listed as questionable for next week's game against Tennessee, which you'll see here on ESPN.
Becoming one of the myriad of Heisman hopefuls this season has become the quickest way to end up in the hospital. But all Washington's Napoleon Kaufman has done is get better every week. And Saturday afternoon against San Jose State in Seattle, he set a new standard even for himself. And it didn't take long. First play offensively from scrimmage against San Jose State. We're 49 seconds in. That's Kaufman out of the shadows and bursting right through the Spartans. The longest run of his career. He stuck around for his senior season in hopes of a Heisman. 91 yards later, he may lead the field. 7-0 at that point, and the Spartans stayed within 7 with 6:07 left. Kaufman again, taking things into his own hands. This time, a much more important, although not quite as long run. 76 yards later, 254 yards in the day. He scored 3 times, a career high in rushing for him. The Huskies pull it out 34-20. It's his third 200-yard effort this season. The Spartans have never beaten Washington with 6 tries now. It's only the second time they've held an opponent under 45 points this season at Cardinal Stadium. Louisville hosting 18th-ranked NC State. You think that's an odd sight? The homecoming queen was 48 years old. Marty Lowe under pressure, picked off by Dwayne Everett. NC State ties the game at 14. They're looking good. But the Wolfpack turned the ball over 7 times. Third quarter, though, it's still tied at 14. And then Anthony Shellman shelves NC State. Turns the corner, goes a dozen yards, had 137 on the day on 27 carries. The nation's number 4 defense allows Louisville 341 total yards. The Cards turn the tables, holding the Wolfpack to 59 rushing. Only other meeting, Johnny Unitas led Louisville's 24-point win.
The Canes, especially Frank Costa, wanted to redeem themselves for what happened last year against FSU, and Miami was certainly fired up, and not just the players. All right, Dennis Erickson getting in on the act. FSU's first possession, Danny Cannell has a nose in striking position, but he is picked off in the end zone by Malcolm Pearson. Bobby Bowden with some words of advice for his young QB. The Hurricanes would capitalize on the turnover. James Stewart just waltzes in. Erickson has good reason to be fired up. 7-0 Miami. Late in the second, tied at 14. Hurricanes driving thanks to this catch by Chris T. Jones. One-handed grab for the first down. Oh, just a wee bit excited. Closing seconds of the first half. Ryan Collins in for the rollout option. He does exactly that. Finds Derek Harris all alone in the end zone. Costa not worried about losing his starting job. 21-14 Miami. Third quarter, things not going FSU's way. Costa unleashes a long bomb. Devin Bush doesn't see it. He had an easy INT. Still in the third, 24-17 Miami. Cannell tries to throw out from his end zone. He's picked off by Carlos Jones. 31-17 Miami.
I want it bad. It ain't over. It's not over.
On the very next play after that statement by Derek Brooks, Cannell's backup, John Stark, is sacked by Kennard Lang, forcing a fumble that the Canes recover, and yes, it is over. Costa and Erickson, oh, that big victory hug. Miami wins 34-20. The Canes turned 4 interceptions into 21 points, and they are back in the national championship picture. Costa was 18 of 32 for 177 yards and effectively used changes in cadence to draw the Noles into 7 offsides penalties. They were doing a lot of talking after this one.
They said I couldn't win a big game, and they said we couldn't beat Florida State with me being a quarterback. And all those guys over at ESPN, Craig James and everybody, hey, we beat them.
We were hoping something would happen, and it didn't. So then we decided to go ahead and throw the young guy in and see if he could make something happen. We started to go back with Cannell, but it didn't seem to make a difference. We executed poorly. They out-executed us. I don't want to take anything away from them.
Well, the Canes have played the spoiler role before where the Noles are concerned. 5 times Bobby Bowden has ended a season with only 1 loss, with the 1 loss being to Miami in 3 of those years. It could be 4 in '94. Well, who would lose for the first time, Colorado State or Arizona? The unbeaten Colorado State Rams put it on the line against number 6 Arizona at Wildcat Stadium. Early in the third, Colorado State quarterback Anthony Hill hits Justin Shaw with a 37-yard touchdown strike. The Rams go up 14-6. Then later in the quarter, Arizona quarterback Dan White is hit hard. He fumbles. Colorado State's Sean Moran picks it up, rumbles 77 yards to the end zone. Colorado State in the lead at that point, 21-6 in the fourth. Arizona's last chance.
Seconds remaining in the game.
Dan White
Colorado State's for their 4-man rush.
Throws his 4th straight incomplete pass. Arizona turns the ball over on downs with 17 seconds left. Number 22, Colorado State, hangs on for the upset, 21-16. The Rams are off to their best start in 69 years. They have won 9 straight dating back to last season. It's just Arizona's 3rd loss in 17 meetings with Colorado State. Pac-10 teams are 2-6 this season against teams from the WAC. Notre Dame at Boston College, they're by 2 late in the fourth. 4th and 11. Jake Plummer finds Clyde McCoy for a first down. Arizona State wins it with this field goal, 38-yarder by John Baker. Texas Southern versus Alcorn State. 1 second left. You see the score. Texas on the ball after Steve McNair took a knee too quickly on 4th down, so Texas Southern gets one last chance. The Hail Mary by Cedric Douglas. It's batted around and around and around. Look, the ref is right there. Incomplete. Alcorn hangs on. McNair with 4 touchdowns but 3 interceptions. Would you believe even more scores from Saturday? I kid you not.
Up just a bit with Miami's victory over Florida State. What that means now, there are no undefeated teams in the Big East or in the ACC. And Notre Dame also out of the national championship picture with 2 losses. What this means is the chances of an undefeated showdown here in the Orange Bowl against the Big 8 champ or in the Sugar Bowl against the SEC champ are very much reduced. And now with Arizona stumbling against Colorado State, the Rose Bowl chances take a hit.
I think the Rose Bowl really has to very much pray that next week Michigan does not beat Penn State, and it all boils down to this. The best team in the Pac-10 probably will not play on New Year's Day against Penn State. That's Washington. They'll sit at home with Napoleon Kaufman looking at his Heisman Trophy.
They got an undefeated team in your state. Texas A&M, we're not talking about them. They have a tough game at Texas in Austin. I think they can win that ball game. They could run the table and win the Associated Press national title because somebody else loses. I mean, it's crazy out there.
It's starting to get crazy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the teams that are still undefeated and trying to get toward the host position of a Coalition Bowl. Florida still has 4 more home games. They have to travel to Tallahassee at the end of the season. Colorado and Nebraska are on that collision course in Lincoln the 29th. Who's going to come out of all that?
Good teams you bring up right there, my friend, because Florida State, now with their back against the wall, has a great chance to beat Florida in Tallahassee. Last year they had to win against Miami to stay alive, and they did it then. You look at Miami, now that they are back in this hunt, the winner of the Colorado-Nebraska game moves significantly higher in the poll, so that on a New Year's Day game out here in the Orange Bowl, Miami will play against them and beat them. There's nobody going to beat Miami here in the Orange Bowl.
Wait a minute.
I know that for sure, and they're probably one of the national championship teams.
But let's don't forget another undefeated team. Team that's won 17 straight, Auburn. Now, I know they got to play Alabama and they got to beat Florida, but it's possible that they can end up number 2 to Texas A&M, who's number 1. Then I can book a game, Texas A&M, Auburn, for the Probation Bowl in Orlando.
Hey,
Wouldn't that be something?
I played in one of those probation bowls once.
Of course, doing nothing but advocating teams that are on probation, Auburn and Texas A&M. Reminder to join us next Saturday for College Game Day, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time from Ann Arbor. We'll talk about that Nittany Lions Wolverine showdown for the Rose Bowl front runnership out of the Big Ten and a lot more. We send you back now to Sunday Sports Day.
All right, guys, thanks very much.
Got a big out. Frank Madu popped by Corey Murphy, but they returned the favor here when Mark Fields delivered the hit. Ronnie Childs recovered the fumble, brought it back 26 yards for the touchdown that put Washington State up 7-0. Later, quarterback Chad Davis, who Washington State head coach Mike Price said transferred from Oklahoma because he didn't like running the option. Runs the option to perfection with a touchdown that put it away. 21-7, Washington State, the winner. Needless to say, the new USA Today CNN Coaches Poll has a dramatically different look again this week, and we'll see how much after we see some Heisman hopefuls, excluding Penn State's Kajana Carter, who had the off week this week. But Washington running back Napoleon Kaufman was on. Against San Jose State, it was a career day for the senior running back, 254 yards, including this touchdown run of 76 yards. He had another 91 yards and a third of only 3. Kaufman said he never worries about being caught from behind, and we can see why. It was Kaufman's third 200-yard game of the season. Washington won its 4th in a row. Some other names we need to keep an eye on. Michigan's Tyrone Wheatley, another impressive start, 153 yards. CNN Coaches Poll, Florida still number 1, but the Gators have widened their gap over number 2, Nebraska. And Penn State has jumped a spot to take over number 3, Joe Paterno's team, now within 110 points of the top spot. Colorado up 1 to number 4, and Michigan rejoins the top 5, moving up 3 places. And up 3 with its big win to 7, while Florida State has fallen 5 places to number 8. Texas has cracked the top 10, up 6 to 9, while Arizona's loss to Colorado State only cost the Wildcats 4 places as they hang in the top 10. Now, while everyone's been watching Miami and Virginia 15, up 4 places this week. Kansas State's win over Kansas Thursday night behind another fine performance from quarterback Chad May has the Wildcats up 2 to number 11. North Carolina's 31-24 squeaker over Georgia Tech moved the Heels up 2 to 12. There's Colorado State, an impressive 6-0, and up 5 more to number 13, with Virginia Tech's 41-13 win over Temple, enough to move the Hokies up 3 places to number 14. And we're going to Diego State last night, where Mike McCoy had a great game at quarterback. Here, hitting Derek Marston for one of his 3 touchdown passes. McCoy threw for 354 yards. The Utes broke a 7-7 tie with that play. And then there was Charlie Brown, who was no clown, out of the backfield. 50 yards for one of his 2 touchdown runs here. Utah beat San Diego State 38-22. And as we go back to the new USA Today CNN Coaches Poll, the Utes are up 3 more places to number 18. But look at Notre Dame. The Irish dropped 9 spots to number 16, meaning Kansas State, Colorado State, and Virginia Tech are all ranked ahead of Notre Dame. Washington State up 3 to 17. Baylor up 4 to 19 after its 44-10 win over SMU. And Wisconsin moved up 2 to rejoin the top 20 with a 46-14 win at Northwestern. Last night in the WAC, BYU played at Fresno State. And check out Jerome Oliver. Talk about not being denied. He goes 29 yards for the touchdown. Check it out again. It's helmet removal time on the hit. And Oliver, the one who just keeps going. 14-0 Fresno State before John Walsh would lead the BYU comeback. Hitting it to Lamili here. Walsh, 3 touchdown passes, threw for 366 yards, and the Cougars came from behind to win it 32-30. The win, not enough, though, to move BYU at all. Still number 25. And as we round out the new coaches poll, we see Oklahoma fell 9 places to number 21 after its loss to Texas. Ohio State dropped 11-22. Idle Duke moved up 1 to 23, while North Carolina State's loss at Louisville, 35-14, cost the Wolfpack 8 spots, now 24. But everyone in the poll a week ago is still in the poll. But the weekend's events hardly end with the poll, as CNN's Darren Kagan reminds us with another trip across the USA.
Let's begin our great journey across the college football fields of America in Lincoln, Nebraska. Nebraska going for the extra point. Holder John Vertle lobs a pass to kicker Darren Erstad, who scores on the conversion. The Huskers win 32-3. Georgia Tech at North Carolina. Watch this strange interception. Number 4, Octavius Berry, tips the ball. It jumps around. And Ron Rogers recovers for Georgia Tech. But the rambling wreck would have some problems of their own. Mike Brown had the ball, pops it up. North Carolina takes the ball and the game, 31-24. Arkansas at Tennessee. Arkansas's Oscar Malone takes the pitch from Barry Lunney. Looks like a tackle, but no one blows the whistle on Malone, so he keeps on going, scores a touchdown. Temple at Virginia Tech. William Farrell with the block. The Hokies recover. Stacey Henley picks up the ball for the Tech touchdown. Tech wins 41-13. Let's check out some Pac-10 action. UCLA at Cal, where Cal becomes the only Pac-10 team in the last 60 years with 5 straight wins over the Bruins. They didn't get any help with plays like these. Wayne Cook gets blasted and fumbles. It's a loose ball. Lineman Chad Sauter finally falls on the ball, but in his own end zone. Cal wins 26-7. And let's look at Heisman hopeful Steve McNair. McNair shared the wealth on Saturday. This with the toss to his own brother Tim. With 1 second left in the game, Alcorn State was up by a touchdown. So Texas Southern decides to try that great comeback magic like Colorado did a few weeks ago. Cedric Douglas launches the ball. It's tipped at least 4 times in the end zone, but ruled incomplete. Alcorn State wins 28-21.
You just never can tell what's going to happen.
Irish Seminoles and Wildcats dropped out of the top 10. Here's the rest of the movers and shakers. Enjoy.
If BC and Notre Dame had been rained out or something, this still would have been an epic weekend in college football. In the Southwest, a punter managed to get one away and still cost his team a safety. In the Northeast, unbeaten Cornell downed Harvard for the 9th straight time, Harvard's longest one-team losing streak ever. And Doug Williams' career touchdown record in Division II fell. Valdosta's Chris Hatcher threw 5 of them Saturday against New Haven and now has the record with 94. In fact, you name it, Saturday, we had it. All the big hits,
the backfield boys,
hurdles, and some high stepping highlight our look back at college football Saturday number 6. We start with some strange occurrences on special teams. 2 examples of why one should never take the point after for granted. Southern Cal at Oregon State. The Trojans dam the Beavers kick. USC's Mika Phillips picks the ball up at the 30 and makes a beeline for the end zone. 70 yards later, the Trojans have themselves a 2-point defensive conversion, and they continue to avoid something they've avoided since 1957, having lost to both of Oregon's Pac teams in the same year. Nebraska on its way to whipping Oklahoma State. Husker holder John Vedral about to be corralled. He throws, falling away, and he finds kicker Darren Erstad for a 2-point conversion for the offense. And just for kicks, SMU punter Anthony Scotti was forced to kick 12 times against Baylor. With that many, one of them was bound to go backwards. This effort from his own end zone not only did wonders for Scotty's net yardage, but it also gave Baylor yet another 2 points. But let's see him do that again. Speaking of twos, a pair of phenomenal passing efforts in losing causes Saturday. Stanford starter Steve Stenstrom completed 28 of 36 for 313 yards, including 10 consecutive completions. He became the Pac-10's all-time leading passer with 9,662 yards, eclipsing the mark of former Oregon State quarterback Eric Wilhelm. South Carolina QB Steve Tannehill set school passing records, going 40 for 59 for 451 yards and 3 scores, but even he was outdone by East Carolina's Marcus Crandall. Crandall threw for 344 and 4 touchdowns in a 56-42 victory. Kudos to Utah quarterback Mike McCoy. McCoy and the Utes remained unbeaten after his 28 for 36 season-high 354-yard performance in stopping San Diego State.
Another winning performance of note, Lehigh's Bobby Aylesworth engineered Yale Bowl passing records, going 30 for 41 for 454 yards and 3 scores in a 36-32 win over the Elis in the 500th college football game played in the history of the Yale Bowl. Our rundown of the day's best rushing performances starts with Washington's Napoleon Kaufman. The lead Husky had his second consecutive career best effort with 254 yards rushing and 3 scores, including a personal best 91-yard run from scrimmage. Nebraska's Lawrence Phillips, now forced to carry the Huskers' offensive load, answered the call with a career-high 221 yards and 3 TDs. That is a load. With 1,006 yards to his credit, Phillips has become the first major college back to surpass the 1,000-yard mark this year. But don't forget about Butler's top Bulldog, Arnold Mickens. He's back. He set school records with 56 carries, 295 yards in his search for Heisman consideration. Mickens setting a new 1AA record with 5 straight games of 200 or more yards. He has now amassed 1,401 yards this season. Irish eyes, of course, still crying over Notre Dame's 30-11 thrashing at Boston College. Helped, if that's the right word for it, immensely by Ron Paulus's terrifying 5 for 21, 50-yard passing performance. BC controlled the ball with an 81-56 edge in offensive plays, including 61 rushes. Combine that with Stanford's 91-51 edge in offensive plays a week ago, and you'll find that the Irish defense has played 27 more minutes of football than has the Notre Dame offensive unit over the last 2 games. Has 1994 seen a shift of power out west? Colorado State's stunning upset of Arizona not only gave the 6-0 Rams their best start since 1925, it also gave the WAC a 6-2 record against the Pac-10 this season. Prior to this year, the WAC had only managed a 9-21-1 mark versus the Pac-10, including a dismal 93 record of 8 losses and just 1 win. And dismal days are finally over for West Virginia Tech. After 36 consecutive losses, the Division II Golden Bears bested Concord College, using some offensive trickery to gain a 14-7 victory. Tech head coach Bob Goebel then headed into the Kanawha River in celebration of the end of the 3.5-year drought. You can come out now, Coach.